Okay, on this video what we're going to be looking at is the difference between a market versus a government or interventionist approach to aggregate supply policies. So you need to be aware of some of the strengths and weaknesses of using both of these different types of policies. So in terms of both these market and interventionist policies, all supply-side policies are designed to do the same thing. All designed to try and boost our potential output or our productive capacity by increasing either the quantity or quality of our productive resources. However, some supply-side policies are interventionists in the sense that it's the government intervening, while others are market-based, which basically means they're taking away government intervention and allowing demanders to apply to determine how resources are allocated in the market. So in terms of interventionist policies, we're looking at initiatives that would either not occur without government intervention or they would occur without a suboptimal level from society's point of view. So some of these initiatives wouldn't occur without any government intervention, and some of them would occur in some degree, but not in the degree that we'd like it to be. So for example, education and research and development, there would be some education and some research and development because there's a profit associated with it, but they would be under-allocated in a free market. Generally, these interventionist policies are still trying to prevent market failures. So what we mean by that is that they're still trying to, basically, they are trying to overcome market failures because the market would fail to allocate resources efficiently without the government intervention in these situations. So, for example, subsidies for research and development, there would be an under-allocation of research and development, so it would be a market failure if the government didn't intervene. So there would be an under-allocation because producers and consumers don't consider the positive externalities associated with production and consumption. So, for example, if it's research and development into health, then that would have positive externalities for third parties in the form of helping people that suffered from that illness to potentially find a cure or at least some form of treatment for that disease. So they are under-allocated in a free market because they generally have positive externalities in production. And therefore the subsidies, what they do is they help to lower firms' costs of production and encourage investment by the private sector. This helps to boost productivity, reduce costs of production and boost aggregate supply. So in the long term, it helps to boost our aggregate supply potential because we have the adequate amount of research and development undertaken in the market because the governments had been able to internalise some of those positive externalities from the production of those goods and services. So the free market would also underinvest in education and infrastructure because the producers don't get all the benefits. So the social benefits associated with their production for education would include things like the fact that you're paying tax for the rest of your life, you're less likely to be involved in crime, you can make a more meaningful contribution to society. For infrastructure, that would be for society more generally, less time spent in traffic, potentially less air pollution because trucks are spending less time on the roads and things like that. So the government will subsidise education to reduce the cost of schooling, e.g. staff's wages, etc., and encourage training and education so that the socially optimal level of training takes place. This ensures that there's not an under-allocation of resources to education and training, and therefore we should get access to a higher quality labour force and boost our productive capacity. So an interventionist policy can be as simple as education and training because, again, they would be under-allocated in a free market. So interventionist policies are generally related to market failures from under-allocation of resources. Government can also directly provide some education infrastructure, which will help to boost our aggregate supply potential and should help to improve overall economic welfare for society. In terms of costs and benefits of interventionist policies, so for example, if you're looking at the costs for interventionist policies, you could talk about the fact that while some subsidies promote efficiency in aggregate supply, other subsidies can have a negative impact. So those that are used in a temporary fashion to provide assistance to young, growing, dynamic businesses are good, particularly if they're trying to compete against monopolies. So in the long term, that should help to promote competition because we're giving assistance to some of these businesses. And then when there's more competition, that should help to boost efficiency and expand our productive capacity. So there are good subsidies when they are used in an appropriate fashion to try and boost competition in the market, to try and encourage firms to be more dynamically efficient, which will help to boost competition in the long term. In terms of bad subsidies, subsidies given to businesses competing against foreign imports in areas of clear comparative disadvantage, e.g. car manufacturing, can lead to this embedded sense of inefficiency and hurt our productive capacity. So removing the subsidy in this case would allow for improve our aggregate supply potential in the long term because we get exposed to competition and we need to be more efficient in order to survive. Just be mindful with interventionist policies, the there are good and bad interventionist policies. We'll talk about market approaches to aggregate supply in the next video.